For 24/7 soul edifying content, this is Kristocentric Station. Playing at Kristocentric.com. Kristocentric Station, the Kingdom Promoter.
It is indeed another amazing Wednesday right here on Kristocentric Station. My name is Yeboah Edwin Techi, and you are welcome to the Kristocentric Agenda. On this show, we'll talk about issues pressing to the general public, and today we're talking about land. And I have the distinguished pleasure to have with me in the studio the head of delivery and compliance unit of the Lands Commission, RUTH MAWUNYO ASUO. She's here to answer all the questions that have been on your mind about buying land, about knowing where to buy it safely, how to prevent yourself from being scammed, and so many other questions. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome to the studio RUTH MAWUNYO ASUO. Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm fine, and you?
Oh, by grace, I'm blessed. I'm blessed.
Thank God.
So wait, how do with the rise in people buying lands, trying not to get scammed, tell me a bit about the process of land acquisition.
All right. Thank you for having us and giving us the opportunity to explain to your listeners some of the key issues bothering their minds within the land sector. So, in acquiring land, I'll describe it as a journey. You first have to identify the land you're interested in acquiring, investigate, verify, and then you can acquire, that is pay money, get your documentation, and get the registration done. In identifying the land, you have to physically go and look at the land you're interested in. Look at where it falls, where it's located, the neighborhood. Identify who owns the land. Is it land managed by a family or a stool, or it's privately owned? Make inquiries from the neighborhood. Verify the boundaries. Identify which professionals you can get to help you. There are land surveyors to assist you in verifying the boundaries. You have to do a search from the Lands Commission to verify what the records say in terms of who has registered, who the registered owner is. Verify from the assembly what legal use you can put the land to, and then get a professional, other professionals such as a lawyer, to explain all the legal issues pertaining to land ownership, acquisition, and registration to you. So once you are satisfied with all that, then you can acquire. That's when you engage the owner. Agree on whatever amount or price you have to pay, make the payment, obtain your land documents, and make sure that is also properly executed. All the parties, your seller and his appropriate witnesses have signed. You, the buyer yourself, have also signed with your witnesses. And then you can pay the appropriate tax, what we call the stamp duty, and then submit to the Lands Commission for registration. So I'll describe it as that process.
That's a long process. It's not as simple as it looks.
Yes.
Yeah. From it's so long from getting your lawyers, having the appropriate professionals have a look at it, going to look at the land, asking the neighborhood, and it's wow. There have been instances of people selling a piece of land 5 times. So one piece of land, 5 different owners.
Yeah.
How is that possible?
Well, like I explained and you said, it's a journey. And in that journey, you realize that there's a lot of responsibility on the buyer to investigate. So there could be instances where the seller has sold one piece of land to one party, and then maybe due to wrong demarcation or wrong preparation of plans, that same parcel has been demarcated and is given to another person. So if any of the parties, that especially the second party, does not take time to investigate, do the necessary checks from the neighborhood and from the Lands Commission, then it can arise that the same piece of land will be sold to different parties. It can also arise from the ownership, because in Ghana, land is owned by families or stools.
Yeah.
Within that family or stool, there could be disputes as to who the rightful head is or leader is to dispose of the land. So it could be possible that my family, there's a split, and then one family head sells this piece of land to you, Edwin, and then the other family head thinks that no, you are not supposed to be the right person to lead us and to make grants. So he also goes out and sells that same parcel to another party, and that's where it would be an onus on the buyers, the two buyers, to verify, to investigate. So it's a journey. That's why I said it's a journey. You must be patient and go through it, because land represents people's investments, people's securities. So you must be patient at it and be sure of what you are investing your money in. Checking from the neighborhood would help you to identify if there are instances like that where there are disputes or conflicts within the landholding group, and that can advise you on the course of actions to take to safeguard your investment.
But you've mentioned some of the responsibility falls on the buyer.
Yeah.
For our listeners, what is the role of the Lands Commission so they don't have it confused?
So the Lands Commission, as we know it, is a statutory body established by law to register and keep records of land ownership. So after you've done your process, so you realize that it's after the buyer has done his due diligence, has paid money, obtained his land documents, that he comes to the Lands Commission. So you bring your document to the Lands Commission. Lands Commission has to verify and vet that document you've brought against what our laws and our legal requirements states. The law requires that when you bring the document, we check to be sure that it conforms to what the law prescribes. Is dated, the parties have signed, the Registrar of Lands has executed it, the term, that's the interest you are acquiring in the land, is stated. So we check all those things, and then we verify your root of title. What do we already have in our records pertaining to that land? If it's a stool land, let's say it's Nungwa, our record shows that Nungwa lands are located by the chief. Now, who do we know as the chief of Nungwa? Is that the chief who sold it to you? So we verify that ownership. Does he have the capacity to give you the land? The interest he has given you, do you have the legal rights to hold that interest? Are you an adult? Are you a minor? All those things are what the Lands Commission checks. So you realize that Lands Commission comes in after the buyer has conducted his due diligence and his investigations and is satisfied and has obtained the documents on the land. Then he brings that to the Lands Commission for us to verify all the legal requirements and confirm that they've been met. Then we register. So you notice that even as part of our registration process, we also do a publication to alert the public that maybe Edwin has acquired this piece of land. He's brought it for us to register. We've looked at it. It meets the legal requirements, so we are going ahead to register. Does any other person have an issue relating to that land? We give the opportunity for anybody to come up and let us know. So that's where we're coming. We're coming after you've acquired it to check to see that the documents that you've brought represent a legit transaction, and then we register and enter it in our records as notice to the general public, so that any other person who comes to us to do inquiry would see that this person has been recorded as the owner of this parcel.
Now, with this document, isn't it possible for the person to come and verify the ownership of the land before presenting these documents? Because some of the landowners require that you pay the money before they give you any land to even go and verify. And by the time you verify, if it's not in the person's name, they've lost that money. Isn't it possible for the person to verify who owns this land before even going to the landowner to pay to get those documents?
It's possible to verify. That's why I said you have to be patient. You must insist on your right. It's like going to buy any other commodity. Let me use a car as an example. When you go, the dealer must be willing to show you, at least give you a tour of the vehicle, show you how it runs, the features it have. So likewise, if the landowner is genuine and he himself knows he's genuine, he would even offer you a side plan and ask you to go and verify his ownership. So that's where the caution must come in. Don't let anybody push you. You must be cautious. Don't let the excitement of what you've identified and want to buy make you less careful. You must be more careful. You must explain to the owner, yes, I'm interested in buying this land, but I need to verify what you are telling me. If the owner himself is genuine, he would offer you the plan and tell you that this is the side plan, because offering someone a side plan does not mean the person has become the owner. It's just a document that the person needs to use to come and check from the Lands Commission what ownership you have. So if the owner himself is legit, they would even offer you the plan. They would tell you that, oh, when you come, we'll give you a copy of our plan. You can go to the Lands Commission and verify the ownership. So anytime you are dealing with a seller or an owner who is a bit skeptical about giving you his documents or a copy of his document to verify, you must be more careful and you must investigate further before you pay any money.
Okay. But what are some of the documents that a buyer must obtain from the seller?
All right, so if it is a stool or a family who owns a large tract and then they are selling, they will offer you a side plan. If they don't even have the side plan, because most often they would have a side plan covering their larger boundary and they're only probably selling you a piece of the land. So they may not have a plan covering that piece alone, but they can allow you to get a surveyor to come and demarcate that portion that is being sold to you and give you a copy of that plan, and then you go and use it to do the search. So you need to see the person's side plan. If it's someone who already bought from an unloaded owner like a chief or a family head, and he has a document, what we normally called indenture, you must have a look at that indenture, inspect it, read it, understand. If you don't understand it, that's where you need professionals to help you. You can come to the Lands Commission. There are land administrators who can look at it and explain what the document means. You can get a lawyer who can look at it and explain to you what it means. Then you can use a copy of the plan in that document to come to the Lands Commission and verify indeed if that document is recorded, entered or registered in our records as representing that person as the owner. So you'll need a side plan come to the Lands Commission to verify.
Amazing. What are some of the things that a buyer should look out for in a document to determine if it's an original?
All right, so having a document, original or not, does not literally mean that the transaction is valid or legitimate. So you can have a document that meets all the legal requirements. That is, it's dated. It states the parties to the transaction. That is where the person got his grant from, and he himself, his name on the document. It states the kind of interest that the seller holds in the land. When we talk about interest, we are looking at the number of years. A lot of times when people say I've bought land, they assume they've just bought it. But actually you get a lease. It's like a rental, but it's a long-term rental.
So it's never permanent.
It's never permanent. So you must look at what interest the person who is selling to you, how many years does he have in the land and what is he giving to you? Look at the site plan against the schedule, because aside the site plan, there is a part in the document which we call the schedule that describes the parcel, shows you the acreage, the size of the land, and talks about the boundaries of the plot. So look at all that. You can look at all that and determine that this document is valid or legit, but it doesn't automatically mean that it represents a legal transaction. Because as you mentioned earlier, we can have two disputing family heads selling the same piece of land to two different people. Their documents may be legit, valid, it will have all the salient points, but then which one of them legally or rightfully owns the land? So beyond looking at the face of the document and determining its validity, you must go further to investigate how valid the transaction is.
So what's the maximum number of years a person can own a piece of land for?
All right. So the law provides guidelines for the maximum number of years that you can get. If you are a Ghanaian, it gives you up to 99 years. If you are a foreigner, the law provides that you can only hold 50 years at any specific time, but you have the option to renew. So at the expiration of your 50 years, you can see the landowner and then negotiate for another extended time. If you are a Ghanaian, you have up to 99 years, but the landowner will determine what number of years they can give you within that 99 years. You can negotiate with your landowner and then come to an agreement on a certain period within that frame. And the law also says that if you're a Ghanaian, you have automatic renewal. So at the expiration of whatever term the landowner has given you, you are entitled to automatic renewal. Unless you show that you are no longer interested in the land, then the owner can reallocate it to somebody else. But once you have interest in it, the law requires that the owner must give you an automatic renewal, but you renegotiate for new terms for the renewal period.
So which owners have permanent ownership of the land?
All right, so the allodial owners, the chiefs, the families. So let me use Nungwa again.
Okay.
I'm not from Nungwa though. Let me use Nungwa again.
Yeah.
So if you take Nungwa lands, they are owned by the community. So the chief, who is representing the community as the head, has perpetual interest in the land. Likewise, the indigents of Nungwa. So if you are an indigent of a certain community, the law says that you also have perpetual use rights of the land. But if you want to sell to another party, then you can give that person for a certain number of years. Prior to 2020, the laws of Ghana allowed families to give perpetual interest in their lands to other people, other subjects of Ghana, not necessarily their family members. So you may have a few instances where certain individuals who, prior to 2020, having freehold, what we call freehold interest in land. But with the coming into force of the Land Act 2022, the law now says that only the allodial owners or the indigents can have what we call the allodial or the usufructuary, which is the perpetual interest. Any other person will have for a certain number of years.
Certain number of years.
Yes.
In June, we witnessed one of Ghana's deadliest floods, and we realized that some homes were built along waterways. How is it that land is being sold along waterways when it is dangerous?
All right. So I'll go back to my first response. Acquiring land is a journey. It requires patience. So the person buying the land must beware. That's what the law says. It says, buyer beware. And you know, the weather and our climate is changing. So it's possible that at a certain point, you could clearly see that a certain area is either a wetland or a waterway. But with the changes in our climate and the environment, it's become difficult to even determine areas that are waterways. And then sometimes too, the landowners do what we call filling. They putting debris and other things to convert the waterways or the wetlands into solid ground, and then they offer it for sale. So that's where the onus lies on the buyer. You must verify. You must ask questions. You must go to the assembly before, as part of the journey and as part of your due diligence process. Always remember to verify the use of the land. That's why we have the planning authorities at the various district assemblies. So you must also make sure that you go there and find out this land that I'm being offered, what is the use? They have the planning layouts for the various communities. So they can advise you that yes, this may look like solid ground, but per our planning layout, it's a wetland, it's a waterway. Maybe now it may not look wet, but it's a waterway. And we know how nature works. Today it may look like it's giving you the leeway, but when it's time for it to do its own thing, the floods would come. So that's where you must investigate, you must ask questions. As for the owner, it's his land, so for whatever reasons, he may decide to fill it up and offer it for sale. But it's the person who is buying, who is going to commit funds into it, who must investigate and be sure before you put in your money. You have all the avenues to check. The district assemblies there for you to check. As part of your enquiries in the neighborhood as well, you can ask questions. What is the nature of this land? What happens when it rains? What happens when we are in the dry season? Have you seen any other person come around this area? Have you seen the assemblies trying to stop people working? Because you realize that for a lot of those areas, if you're diligent, you would observe that people have built and left a certain buffer. That should even take your curiosity to find out why within a developed community a certain piece of land or stretch of land seems to have been left undeveloped. All those things should pique your interest for you to ask questions and find out why the situation is like that. And fortunately, I always tell people that in Ghana, if you ask questions, people would answer. We are a very friendly country. When you go to places and you ask people questions, people are willing to offer you answers. So ask questions. You'll get somebody who will give you a hint on what the situation on the land is. You have the institutions to go to. You have the planning authorities to go to. You have the Lands Commission to come to. So ask questions. Find out where you can go and get the knowledge you require before you invest into the land.
But do you think that the assemblies actually inform or willingly inform the buyers that this place you are going to buy is either a Ramsar site or it's along a waterway? Do they really genuinely inform the buyers, or unless they ask because they want to sell?
Well, selling is the landowner who wants to sell.
Yeah.
The assembly is just the planning authority who is supposed to control development. So if you go and ask, they would inform you. I've seen places where they even put signposts to indicate that this is a wetland or this is a waterway. But you know, we can't be everywhere at every time. So I believe that in as much as they also try to put in the effort to put the notice across board, you must also make the initial effort. Take the responsibility, because you are going to spend the money. So you take the responsibility and go and ask. And when, even if you don't go and ask, and then they, as part of their patrols or their inspections, observe that something is going on, they'll see that they'll put notice there. I'm sure a lot of us have seen that across the country, where they'll put stop work,
yes,
maybe road, or stop work, waterway, or stop work, produce permit. So in as much as they do in their own way to put the notices across, the responsibility lies on you, the buyer, to go and make the enquiries and be informed before you take the next step.
But can't the Lands Commission also warn buyers when they come to register that where you are going to build this piece of land is located in a Ramsar site or it's along a waterway, so be cautious?
Yes, we do. When you come and you apply for the search, if it's within a Ramsar site or a reserved wetland, we inform you. I have a friend of mine who, I think about 4 or 5 years ago was offered a piece of land at the Sakumon Ramsia side. And so he approached me. And you realize that before he approached me, he already got the information. So he came with a question. Oh, Mawunyo, I'm interested in buying this land. The location is good. The price is also great. But I've heard that it's Ramsia site. But the landowner says, oh, government has given them white paper that it's no longer in Ramsia site. So what do you think? I told him, no, that is not the position. It's still a Ramsia site. I encouraged him. We did an official search and the records even showed it. So I told him, go and show this to the landowner. That when you did the search at Lands Commission, there's no indication that that's protecting have been taken off. It's still a Ramsia site. He went back and the owner was still insisting, oh, don't mind them. It's been done. It's a process. Buy it. But I encouraged him not to buy it. In the end, he went to buy land in Pram Pram. It was far off. So when the demolition started, he called and he was very grateful. So you see, he took responsibility. Aside what the owner had told him and the observations he himself had made within the neighborhood, he came to the Lands Commission, got official information, and then he had to take his own decision. If he had not listened to his own instincts or the advice from the Lands Commission and he had gone ahead to buy, he would have probably faced demolition as we've seen now.
So for buildings that have been demolished at Ramsa sites, is there compensation that they get?
Well, I believe we may have to look at it on a case-by-case basis. So you, the buyer, must bring in your claim or your position, state what the issues are. If you did all your due diligence and then you didn't get any inclination that it's a Ramsia site from any of the state agencies, be it Lands Commission or the assemblies or from your own investigation, then we can look at it at that level and determine what kind of compensation you'd require. But if the evidence clearly shows that you had wind of it and yet still you went ahead, then
there's no compensation.
There's no compensation.
Coming back to the issue of traditional leaders, there have been cases where an individual buys a piece of land from a traditional ruler. That ruler then passes away and their heir comes to contest that this no longer belongs to you because I'm now there. In those cases, what happens?
So in those cases, you need professional assistance and you need your documentation, because traditional rulers, it's a succession. So one ruler leads, when he's no more, another takes up, and it's continuity. So you don't come in and say what your predecessor did is invalid and so everybody must come back. No. Yes, for maybe your own records purposes, you may want to be certain on what your predecessor did, what allocations he's made, and what is available. So you may invite the occupants to come and show evidence of their occupation of the land, so that for your own records you know what is left for you to also allocate. But for you to say what your predecessor has done is invalid must be further interrogated. You may need a lawyer to interpret it and investigate for you. The predecessor, did he have the legitimate and the legal right to allocate? If he did, then you are good to go. But if it is identified that maybe there was a dispute, and maybe at the time you were buying, the predecessor, there was an issue in court as to his legitimacy, and then he went ahead and he was selling, and then a new owner comes, maybe based on the court's investigation of the facts, determining that the previous owner was not properly elected as the chief or the head, then it could be that whatever grant he made will not be legitimate or will not be valid. So you have to renegotiate with the new one.
Renegotiate?
Yes, with the new one. Yes. But renegotiation does not mean you have to pay money. So that's why I use the word renegotiate, because it's beyond money. So you look at all the components of it and then come to a decision. But if everything shows that the predecessor had legitimate rights to make that grant, then you must get a professional to assist you to argue your case with the new heir or the new successor.
So will you simply urge people to avoid buying lands in traditional areas?
No, I won't have say that. You can buy land anywhere because in Ghana, they are the majority landowners. We say that about 80% of lands in Ghana are owned by our traditional owners.
Really?
Yes. Only government owns only about 20%. So if you won't buy for them, then I wouldn't know where else you buy from. And even the 20 that government owns are not all for residential and commercial uses. We have other public uses, schools, markets, and all that. So definitely they are the ones that you go to. But you must investigate. You must verify. You must ask questions. You must be sure before you commit money.
How do you handle issues of encroachment?
So I'll respond to that in terms of public lands because that's what Lands Commission manages. So Lands Commission has public lands that we manage. And so when there are encroachments, the law requires that we serve notice to the encroachers and then let them take the necessary remedial actions. Either they stop the work or they come to us for us to look into it. But because public lands are owned by the states, and then in the interest of all of us, it becomes a bit social and political when dealing with such lands. Government is supposed to provide us with support its citizens with public housing. So if it happens that you own the land in their interest and then there are encroachments, it's not always that you do demolition, straightforward demolition. You have to look at it case by case and determine how it would affect your citizens, and then you take the necessary action. In certain instances, you have no option but to do demolition. Because Ramsar sites, for instance, they are internationally reserved sites, so in a way they are public lands, but their nature means that if it's encroached, you cannot allow people to be there because you look at the effects that it has on the larger society. But if it's acquired for other uses, that the government can look at it and then redefine the use and then regularize and allow the citizens to stay there. They do so. But it happens mainly because it's a process. When people start encroaching, it's not automatic that as soon as you see them, you go and remove them. It's a process. You have to give them notice and give them the opportunity to remedy. But sometimes people take advantage.
Yeah.
So whilst you're waiting for the legal process, they are continuing and other people are coming in. So you have to look at it on a case-by-case basis and know how to deal with it so that your citizens are also not too affected.
Now, coming to traditionally owned land or maybe private lands, if you begin construction and later realize that someone has encroached on your land, what would you advise people to do?
All right, so you have owned the land, if I get the question
Yes.
right. You own it.
You own it.
You have started construction, and then somebody else is coming into the land.
Yes.
All right, so you need professional help. In this one, you need the security.
Is that where the land guards come in?
Well, that's the illegal part of it.
It's illegal. People feel it's legal.
No, it's not. It's not legal. Now the Land Act 2020 makes it illegal, and you can go to jail for it, or you can be fined for it. And now it's not only the person involved in the Land Act, but the person who has even contracted the other person to do the land guard. It also commits a crime.
Wow.
Yes. So that's why you have the police here. So in the land sector, there are a lot of professionals that can help you. You have the security forces there as well. So you see that in the police service, you have a whole property fraud unit that deals in such issues. So yours is to make sure you consult the right professional or the right agency to assist you. If you have your registered document, you've gotten your permit to start development, and somebody else is interfering, you can report to the district assembly. They can use the development task force to try to stop the encroacher. And then you can go to the police, the property fraud unit, and they can also come in to help you to stop the encroacher. You can also go to your landowner, unless it's your landowner who has also sold to the other person. But if your landowner is also not aware of that, they can also support you to stop the encroacher from going onto the land.
Now, when it comes to the local assemblies, if you want to develop or build a particular property and you realize that the plan that they have for that particular area, it differs from your plan, can you still go ahead to build according to your plan, or do you need to conform to that plan that they have?
You need to conform to their plan. You need to conform to their plan, because if you don't conform to their plan, you are going against the regulation. If for any reason you think that the plan should change, then you must apply to the district assembly, the local authority. They would investigate and look into it, and if it's feasible, they will change the plan or the use to which you can put the land, and then you can do that. Because we have instances where certain areas years back were planned for agricultural use, but as the communities are developing and the town is growing, we may have to relook at some of those uses. So maybe at the time it was for agricultural use, and now the community has grown, you've gone to acquire it, and you want to put up a residential dwelling, but then the plan says it's agriculture. But you look at the surrounding development and see that agriculture will no longer be feasible, then you must engage the district assembly. They are the authorities to do that. So they will look at it, investigate, and if it's feasible that they rezone the use and then replan it, they will do so, and then that will give you the opportunity to go in and develop. We've had instances recently where, I'm not sure of the community, but the neighbors had an issue with a poultry farmer because of the stench that was emanating from there. And the poultry farmer said, well, at the time he acquired it, it was zoned for agric use, and he got his permit. But over time, the community has developed to the point that the residences have come close to his farm, and it's creating a problem. So if it happens that that poultry farmer even has to move from there, it means that the assembly must rezone or replan that space to fit into the current use, or the use that will be most suitable.
How long does it normally take for someone to register their land?
All right. So the law provides that it should be registered within 90 days.
90
all
days.
Things equal. Because like I said, when you submit your document to the Lands Commission, we have markers against which we'll check it. So we check all those markers against those 90 days. You're supposed to have your address. We have a lot of instances where people buy documents and they just do maybe Edwin, P.O. Box Accra, or P.O. Box Kumasi. If there is an issue on your document for which we have to contact you, it may cause a delay in the process.
Wow.
You're supposed to make sure that your landowner and his witnesses sign with their designated position. So for instance, if it's a chief, he's required to have some of his principal elders sign. If they don't sign appropriately and you submit it, we would require you to get it updated. So the law provides that we do these processes within 90 days. But most of the times, people submit documents that are not up to the requirements. So there are pauses in between the process. Yes.
There are rumors of people registering their land. They are done with building, then someone else comes saying that they are the rightful owner. They initially registered with the Lands Commission, but now they go back to the Lands Commission and see that their records are no longer there. People have come up with rumors like this. What do you say to those rumors?
We'd have to investigate the rumors, because Lands Commission on its own does not change records. We only change our records when we have a court order. So it's possible that you have acquired it, you've registered it with us, and then there's a disputant who takes it to court. And then the court says that, well, I've looked at the facts, and then the person who has come before me, I've determined that he's the legitimate owner. So Lands Commission, record that in the person's name. Whatever registration you've done for other people, you must take it off and record in this person's name.
It happens.
Yes. So in those instances, it's not the commission on its own that is going ahead to take off people's names. No, we don't have that right. We can't do that. So if we have such instances, then we'll have to comply with what the court order says. Sometimes what happens is that people go to court with a specific individual, but at the end of the process, the declaration is over a larger area, and some of the occupants within that larger area may not have been aware of the processes. So that's why when we are also doing such recordings, we try to do the publications to create the awareness for people to know that we have this judgment or this transaction that we have to enter in our records based on a court order, and it covers this area. So if you think you fall within it, come and verify, and then we can guide you on what to do. If it happens that you never became aware of that, and now the new person comes in and says you should go out, then you need professional assistance again. You need a lawyer to guide you, look at your records, look at everything that you have, and advise you on the remedies that you can get. It's possible that you can also go back to court and challenge. I've seen instances where it happens and the court looks at it and say, okay, these people are innocent purchasers without notice. So although you are the new person, take these people on as your tenants and let them be there and let them pay you whatever rent or token they have to pay you so that they can continue. So in all the instances, you must be aware of what remedies you have, what rights you have, and then get the appropriate professional to assist you through the process.
Where are these publications made? Where should people look to find these publications?
So we do the publications in the national dailies. We do it in the Times, in the Spectators, and then we also publish on our Lands Commission website. So if you see any of them and you are unclear, our doors are always open. You can walk to us and seek for further details, and then we can explain further to you.
So with innocent buyers caught in the crosshairs, are there any form of compensation that they get? Because they've invested so much from acquiring to even building.
Yeah. So as I said, it's on a case-by-case basis. What do I say? It's about the facts or the evidence that you have. So if you have the facts and the evidence to show that you are an innocent purchaser without notice, then you can go through the due process to get the requisite compensation. It could be that the landowner may have to give you a refund or give you a replacement plot. So when you look at each on a case-by-case basis, then you determine the best way of compensation or remedy to provide for the person. It could still be, as I said earlier, that you still be on your land, just that now the new person becomes your landowner, and that is the person you'll deal with.
Is there anything currently that the Lands Commission is working on that they want the public to know about?
So yes, we are in the process of doing digitalization. You know, Lands Commission has mainly been a manual system. But now that the world is changing, the world is going digital, we want to make access to information and then speed up processes for our clients. So we are in the process of digitalizing our records so that we can provide our services faster and also make it easier for clients to access information from us. Currently, we even have the online portal. So if, for instance, as part of your due diligence, you want to do a search, you don't have to walk to our offices with a site plan. You can sit in the comfort of your studio, your home, your market. Just go to the website or go to the portal, onlineservices.lc.gov.gh, and then you submit the site plan. We'll receive it at the back end in the office, do the investigations or the verifications in our records, and then provide you with the information. So we've done that. We've expanded it to, I think, about 7 or 8 regions now. We are in a process of extending it to all the other regions. And that's just one aspect of our services. That's the searches. We are in the process of deploying all our other services, our registration, our stamp duty, and all other services across board, so that it will make it easy for people to submit, and then we would also be able to speedily provide services to our applicants.
Wow. So this is already ready for the public?
Yes, it's ready. So right now, if anyone listening to us is in the process of acquiring land and is in the due diligence process and wants to do a search, if he has a site plan available, he should just go to onlineservices.lc.gov.gh, create an account and submit the site plan. Pay the statutory fee, and then you'll get his report.
Wow.
Yes.
And what's the statutory fee?
236.
Just 236 Ghana cedis.
Yes.
Wow. You know, before I bring the show to a close, is there any advice you have for our listeners, our viewers right now?
All right. Since we are in Kristocentric, maybe let me use a Bible quotation.
Please go ahead.
Hosea 4 verse 6.
Wow.
Yes. I like that quotation because it says, for lack of knowledge, my people perish. The land sector is broad and it's technical. So you must be patient. You must acquire knowledge before you acquire land. You must know which professionals can help you, what due diligence you must do. Be patient and go through the process. It is safer to take a longer time to acquire than to speedily acquire it and then be on a long journey of disputes and regrets.
Wow. How long do you think people should invest in just doing their due diligence?
As long as it's necessary. Because once you start your due diligence, depending on the feedback you get, it may go very speedily. For instance, if you're dealing with public land or government land, that is managed by Lands Commission. So there aren't issues with such lands. Once you check from the neighborhood, you confirm that indeed it's government land. You come to the Lands Commission to do your search, confirm that indeed it's government land, and you can apply and get it allocated. Pay your fees. That should be done within a very short period of time. But if it's a land where you start the due diligence and the investigation and the feedback you're getting is not very clear, then it means that you have to put in a little more time and be certain before you pay money.
Wow, you've actually said so much, and I really want to say a big thank you to you and your team. I know you came with Mr. Obeng and
Madam
Pearl, to come and support you. And I want to say a big thank you to the Lands Commission for joining me in the studio on this episode of the Kristocentric Agenda. You can find the episode on our YouTube channel and also on Facebook. And if you are listening, please share the link with friends and family. You're also listening to us on the Kristocentric app. You're also listening to us on www.kristocentric.org. I want to say a big thank you to each and every one of you for tuning in. My name is Edwin Techi, and I've been your host for the Kristocentric Agenda. Please stay safe. God bless, and always enjoy the rest of your day. And make sure that you do your due diligence when you buy land. Enjoy the rest of your day.